My parents faked a DNA test to teach me a lesson. They told me I wasn't their biological son. My sister, ignoring my pleas, was determined to throw me into a mental hospital. And my beloved fiancée? She not only watched with cold eyes, but used her connections to make sure I suffered every kind of torment inside. 5 years. 5 years and I finally learned my lesson. So why do they suddenly want me to go back to being the spoiled, arrogant brat I used to be? Ryan, what's with the Mr. Big Shot act again? It's late. Why aren't you home? Are you trying to make us all worry about you on purpose? My sister Ashley's voice blasted from the phone. After 5 long years, the Miller family had finally arranged for me to be released. Because today's Brandon's birthday, she added, he said he was willing to give you a chance to apologize. Then Dad took the phone. I know you resent us putting you in the crazy house, but who told you to bully Brandon like that? We did it for your own good. Exactly, Ashley chimed in. And now we got you out, didn't we? What more do you want? They kept nagging me. Half an hour later, after their lecture finally ended, they asked where I was. Where are you right now? We'll send a car to pick you up. This time, be good. Don't wander around again. I swallowed hard, my voice hoarse. The hospital. Yeah. I'd been sitting there, waiting from day to night, without moving. There was a pause. Then they yelled even louder. At the hospital? Can't you get yourself home? Do we really have to come get you? It's not like you don't know the way back. Who are you trying to fool with this act? Are you still resentful of us? I knew you hadn't learned anything. I knew we shouldn't have gotten you out. But they seemed to forget, they were the ones who told me to wait there in the first place. Sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Miller. Ashley. I didn't mean to. The apology slipped out before I could stop it. Silence. Maybe they were shocked by how obedient I sounded. Or maybe it was the way I addressed them. 5 years ago, we had been a close family. If it hadn't been for that DNA test, I never would have believed I wasn't their real son, not when I looked so much like my parents. Whatever. We'll have Ashley pick you up. I sat there quietly, letting the cold wind and hunger wash over me. Need a ride, buddy? A cab stopped in front of me. I shook my head. I was waiting for someone. Taxi after taxi left the curb. By the time the hospital was closing, past 10 p.m., I still hadn't heard from the Millers. Not a single message on my phone. The security guard took pity on me. You've been waiting all day. Why aren't they here yet? I'm about to get off work. It's pretty isolated out here, dangerous for you to be alone at night. I just tugged at the corner of my mouth and stayed quiet. I'd waited 5 years. What was one more day? He sighed, then brought me water and a sandwich. Seeing I was alone, he stayed late to keep me company. Thanks, man. I ate obediently. Honestly, it was the best birthday I'd had in 5 years. The Miller's car never came. In the end, the guard drove me himself. It was past midnight when I got back to the Miller house. My phone still had no messages. The lights were blazing, laughter spilling out into the night. If the maid hadn't opened the door, I might have stayed outside forever. Wow, what happened to you? You look terrible. Your clothes are filthy, Ashley blurted out as soon as she saw me. Mom stared at me in disbelief. Ryan, have you lost a lot of weight? Why, in just 5 years, had I gone from a stocky young man to someone barely 80 pounds? Dad's eyes softened with pity. He immediately told the housekeeper to cook me something. We were going to pick you up, he explained, but Brandon wasn't feeling well, so. I knew this was their way of making amends. They could neglect me, insult me, and then smooth it over with some small gesture. In the past, I would have been thrilled. But now? I didn't care. Before I could speak, Ashley cut me off. Don't fall for it. He's probably pretending to be pitiful so you'll let him stay here. Mom huffed and turned toward me with her gentle act. Anyway, we haven't found your real parents, so you can live here. You can call me Mom, just like before. I still think of you as my son. It's okay, Mrs. Miller. I'm grateful you're taking me in. The words created a gulf between us. Once, we had been as close as a mother and son could be. Tears welled in her eyes. I wasn't the arrogant son she once knew. I should have shouted. I should have demanded answers. But instead, I just stood there, meek and hollow. Brandon trembled when he saw me, like he'd seen a ghost. Finally, he forced himself to extend his hand. Ryan, let's shake on it. I froze. Shake on what? I had never argued with him. 5 years ago, I just started college. Emily, my fiancée, had always been mine, or so I thought. I couldn't stand any guy who looked at her the wrong way, and Brandon was one of them. He'd grown up in an orphanage. For some reason, Emily always seemed to pay him extra attention. Even Ashley, who had always taken my side, turned against me. I confronted Brandon once. After that, rumors spread. Suddenly everyone said I was bullying him. Near the end of the semester, he snapped and jumped off the school building. They saved him, but he left a suicide note, full of accusations against me. No one believed me. Emily broke up with me. And then came the DNA test. I wasn't the Miller's son. Brandon was. Overnight, I went from heir to outcast. In the end, the family I'd lived with for over 20 years sent me to a mental hospital, a place worse than prison. Now Brandon smiled, gracious and noble. I don't want to cause trouble for the family. I don't care what you did to me, it's all in the past. If you promise not to upset Mom and Dad, I can treat you like a brother. Everyone praised him for his kindness. Dad nodded approvingly. That's right. If you're willing to change, you'll always be our eldest son. Ashley scowled. I'm only forgiving you for Brandon's sake. You better thank him. If you bully him again, I'll make you pay. 5 years ago, I would have defended myself, shouting that Brandon staged everything. But now? Explaining myself to people who never cared wasn't worth it. I'm sorry. I came back mainly to get my ID. Their faces darkened. To them, I was ungrateful. Why are you always so difficult? Do you want to go back to the mental hospital? We raised you for so long. Why can't you be good like Brandon? Why are you always disobeying us? Mom's voice cracked. I didn't understand why she was overreacting. But I'm not your real son. Isn't it normal for me to leave and take my ID? Mom froze, staring at me like I was a stranger. Ashley scoffed. You think you can just walk away after living the high life here for over 20 years? You'll never repay that debt. I lowered my head. I couldn't understand them. They hated me. I wasn't even a Miller. Shouldn't my leaving make them happy? In the end, I stayed. My old master bedroom was now Brandon's. I was given the maid's room, a place I'd never stepped foot in before. That night, even in a soft bed, I dreamed of the asylum. Of the people who ignored my screams, tore at my clothes, and laughed at me. Laughed that I thought my family and fiancé would save me. Laughed that I thought I was still the Miller heir. I woke in a cold sweat. When I went to the kitchen for water, I saw Ashley sneaking out with her motorcycle helmet. She froze when she noticed me. Don't you have anything to say? She asked. Say what? Ashley had always loved riding motorcycles. I used to scold her, telling her to be careful. She'd snap, you're so annoying. Brandon doesn't nag me, so why should you? You're not my brother. But even then, I'd still tell her to be careful before she left. All those years of caring vanished in the silence of the last 5 years. Not afraid I'll crash? She asked. I shrugged. Isn't the thrill what it's all about? I turned to leave. She blocked my path. So we sent you to the crazy house for 5 years. Are you going to hold a grudge forever? If you hadn't bullied Brandon, would we have done it? She smiled coldly. She always accused me of that, enjoying my breakdowns. But this time, I just shook my head. I'm not angry. Really? Her face twisted with rage, and she kicked the table. Later, when I saw Emily again, I thought I'd feel something, anger, sorrow, regret. But I felt nothing. She stood beside Brandon, tender and glowing in a way she never was with me. When she finally looked at me, her face was full of disgust. Once, I thought marrying her was my life's goal. But now, watching her gaze at Brandon, I realized I'd been chasing someone who was never mine. Ryan, I saw your clothes were dirty yesterday. I brought you a few things, Brandon said. Don't worry. I only wore them once. He held out his old shirts like he was doing me a favor. Everyone's eyes were on me. I remembered how humiliated I'd felt every time I'd lost to Brandon before. But humiliation was nothing compared to 5 years of hell. Thank you, Brandon, I said, taking the clothes obediently. I'd sell them for cash when I left this house. Even the maids whispered about how far I'd fallen. The Millers looked disgusted. Ryan, are you kidding me? Ashley snapped. She threw the clothes on the floor. How can you wear someone else's hand-me-downs? Don't you know you're a Miller? Ashley flicked the shirts to the floor like they were dirty rags. The buttons clacked against the marble. How can you wear someone else's hand-me-downs? She snapped. Don't you know you were a Miller? Her voice echoed across the foyer. A chandelier hummed above us. The maids in the hall paused with their trays, eyes lowered yet not really looking away. I stared at the shirts. They were clean and ironed. Brandon had probably asked a maid to fold them. Maybe he thought it would come across as humble, generous, brotherly. Or maybe he knew I would have to bend to take them and wanted to watch me bow. I crouched and picked them up again. My fingers worked slow, steady. No shaking. 5 years had cured me of that. Thank you, Brandon, I said. I can wear these. Ashley made a disgusted sound. Pathetic. Brandon lifted a hand, the benevolent prince. Let him be. We should all calm down. Today is important. Right. His birthday. The day I was supposed to apologize for a crime I did not commit. The day the prodigal not son should put on someone else's shirt and pretend it fit. Mom stepped between us with that soft expression she wore when she wanted to look kind in front of the staff. Ryan, go wash up. Dinner is in an hour. We kept things simple, just family. Just family. The words landed like a joke that was a little too sharp to laugh at. I took the shirts to the small room they had given me. The maid's room. A narrow bed. A wardrobe that smelled faintly of detergent and lemon oil. A window that faced a wall. There was a small mirror with a chip in the corner. I hung the shirts and studied my reflection. Hollow cheeks. Eyes that looked older than my face. I pushed my hair back and turned my head left, then right. Somewhere behind the bones and the skin was the boy who used to run through this house and slide down the hallways in socks. I tried to see him. I could not. I washed my hands at the tiny sink. The faucet rattled and spat. I dried my hands on the thin towel and looked at the shirts again. They were nice shirts. Brandon had taste, or the stores that dressed him did. I picked the light gray one. On my way to the door, I noticed a cardboard box shoved under the bed. It was labeled in black marker, Ryan. Storage. My name was written by my mother's neat hand. The letters were straight, careful, like the labels she used to put on spice jars when I was small. Cinnamon. Cumin. Clove. That label had meant I existed in this house even when I was away. Now the box was under a bed in a room that used to belong to someone who changed the sheets. I dragged it out and lifted the lid. A stack of old notebooks. A school photo in a cracked frame. A plastic bracelet from a hospital. I held up the bracelet. A small smile tugged at my mouth. I remembered it. I had broken my wrist when I was 9 trying to prove to Ashley I could jump the hedge like she did. Dad had carried me to the car. Mom had held my hand in the waiting room and blown on my fingers when I said they felt hot. The bracelet had faded print. I tilted it toward the light until the letters sharpened. Name, Ryan Miller. Blood type, A. I stared at that line. A. My throat went a little tight. Not from surprise. From the simplicity of it. Like the truth had always been there, inside a box under a bed meant for a maid. I slid the bracelet into my pocket, put the lid back on the box, and pushed it under the bed. Then I went to dinner. They had set the table in the smaller dining room. Smaller meant the room that could seat 12 instead of 30. A cake sat under a glass dome in the center. White frosting. Gold writing. Happy birthday, Brandon. The air smelled like vanilla and the faint sweetness of champagne. Dad stood when I entered. He had the look of a man who wanted to be seen as reasonable. Sit, he said. Eat. I sat at the corner. A maid poured water by my elbow. Ashley rolled her eyes like even the way I held a glass offended her. Mom placed a plate in front of me and brushed my shoulder with the back of her hand, a touch so light it could be called an accident if anyone asked. We will do the cake after the main course, she said. Brandon chose it. Hazelnut. Your favorite, honey. Whose favorite? That was always the question now. We ate. Brandon talked about a meeting he had with a scholarship committee connected to the orphanage where he grew up. Dad nodded at the right times. Mom asked warm questions. Ashley laughed too loud and stared at the screen of her phone when no one was looking. I cut my food small and chewed slow. I had learned to make meals last a long time. It made people think you were content. Ryan, Dad said suddenly. After we do cake, I would like you to say a few words. About what? About taking responsibility, Ashley said. Brandon reached across the table and patted the air like he was patting my shoulder but not actually touching me. You do not have to if it makes you uncomfortable. I will speak, I said. The maids cleared plates and brought the cake forward. Mom placed the candles and lit them. The flames flickered. Everyone sang. Brandon closed his eyes for a long wish. I watched his face in the glow. His expression was clean, almost holy. A good boy wishing for the good of others. He opened his eyes and smiled, a little shy, like he did not know how handsome he looked when he did that. He cut the first slice and handed it to Mom. The second he handed to Dad. The third he handed to Ashley. He turned toward me with the fourth, paused, then passed it to a maid. For Mrs. Gomez, he said. She has worked so hard today. Mrs. Gomez flushed and bobbed. Oh, sir, that is too much. Not at all, Brandon said. He picked up the fifth slice and finally, like he had remembered an obligation, set it in front of me. I looked at it. A rich layer of frosting. A glossy streak of something darker between the layers. Hazelnut. My childhood favorite. Brandon picked up his fork. Try it. The bakery imported the paste. I lifted my fork and set it down again. My fingers slid into my pocket, touched the plastic bracelet. Blood type, A. When I was small, Mom kept a binder in the pantry with emergency notes. Which cousin had asthma? Which neighbor had a spare key? Which Miller could give blood to which Miller? I remembered the page with my name. I could donate to A and Ab. Could receive from A and O. She had made me recite it when I was 10. It had felt like a game. What was Brandon's blood type? I did not know. He probably did not either. But someone in this house did. Someone had swapped my name on a piece of paper once and told me everything had changed. Eat, Ashley said. Stop being dramatic. I slid the plate toward me. Took a bite. Sweet. Smooth. The flavor bloomed on my tongue and pulled at an old memory like a fishing line snagging cloth at the bottom of a lake. For a second I saw a backyard and a summer party and Mom pushing cake into my mouth while Dad laughed. I swallowed. It is good, I said. Brandon waited until everyone had started eating, then put down his fork and looked at me with careful concern. Ryan. About the past. I do not hold grudges. I hope you can put it behind you too. For the family. Say you are sorry, Ashley said, her voice stiff with excitement. Dad pressed his napkin to his mouth to hide a smile. Mom tilted her head like a bird listening to a distant song. I stood. My chair legs scraped the floor. The sound silenced the room. I put my palms flat on the tablecloth and felt the weave against my skin. It grounded me. "I am sorry," I said. Ashley smirked. Dad exhaled. Mom murmured, "Good boy." I held up a hand. "I am sorry that when someone needed help, I did not see it. I am sorry that I believed being loud was the same as being strong. I am sorry that I did not know a quiet enemy is the most dangerous kind." Brandon blinked. "Enemy is a harsh word." "True," I said. "Let me choose another. I am sorry that I confused pity with mercy. I will not make that mistake again." Ashley frowned like the words were a code she could not crack. Mom shifted, uneasy. Dad cleared his throat. "Enough speeches. We should enjoy the evening. Ryan, tomorrow we will take care of your ID. The paperwork is complicated after a situation like yours. I will have our lawyer handle it." Complicated. Another kind word that meant we control what you touch. "Thank you," I said. After dinner I carried my plate to the kitchen myself. The maids tried to stop me, flustered, but I moved around them and set it in the sink. The kitchen smelled like sugar and bleach. I stood there a minute, breathing it in. A place where everything had a label and a drawer and a schedule. A place where if something broke you fixed it because otherwise dinner burned. Mrs. Gomez came to my side. She kept her eyes on the dish she was washing when she spoke. "It is good to have you home, Mr. Ryan." "Thank you," I said. She set the dish on the rack and wiped her hands. Then she slid something across the counter toward me. A folded note. Her fingers trembled. "No eyes," she whispered. "No cameras. Pantry." I tucked the note in my pocket and walked out. The pantry was at the far end of the kitchen hall. I opened the door and stepped inside. The light came on with a soft click. Shelves. Jars. The binder. It sat on the second shelf next to the flour bins, the same blue cover it had always had. My mother's handwriting on a label white with age, house book. My chest went tight. I pulled it down, closed the pantry door, clicked the lock, and set the binder on the small counter. I flipped past holiday menus and contractor numbers and recipes for marinade. There, near the back, the emergency section. I moved my finger down the list until I found it. Blood types. Dad, AB. Mom, B. Ashley, B. Ryan, A. Brandon, O. I stared. You could pretend a lot of things in a house like this. You could pretend a son was not a son, a brother was not a brother, a note was a proof. But blood did not care about polite lies. AB and B could not make O not unless someone had mixed up more than a set of names. My hand shook, just once, then stilled. I turned the page. Emergency contacts. The pediatrician I had when I was a kid. The orphanage contact for Brandon's scholarship years. A lab phone number with a star next to it, the same lab that had done the test 5 years ago. I touched the star with a pad of my finger like touching it would make sparks. It did not. It sat there, a symbol my mother had drawn when something mattered. I slid the binder back in place. On the way out, I unfolded the note Mrs. Gomez had given me. 2 sentences in a careful hand. Basement, right wall, behind the old water heater. Your box. I put the note in my pocket next to the plastic bracelet and walked out into the hall. Laughter drifted from the dining room. Brandon was telling a story about a teacher who had believed in him at the orphanage. Ashley was dramatizing something about a near miss on the highway. Mom was murmuring like wind in leaves. Dad was talking about a client. The normalcy sounded practiced, like a choir that had sung the same piece so many times it did not need a conductor. I slipped down the back staircase into the basement. The house's bones changed down there. Less glass, more concrete. The air was cooler, carrying the stir of the furnace. I moved past wine racks and covered furniture. The old water heater sat in a niche on the right wall, a fat metal drum with a slow congested breath. Behind it, the wall was painted the same flat beige as the rest, but in one corner the paint looked newer. I slid my fingers along the seam where the drywall met the frame. There. A slight give. I pressed. The panel clicked inward a fraction. I pulled it off. Inside was a narrow cavity. A smaller cardboard box sat there. Ryan. My name again, plain black letters on brown cardboard. I pulled it out and set it on the floor. The lid lifted easy. A phone. Old, scuffed. A cheap model that would not draw attention. Next to it, an envelope. I opened the envelope and slid out a single sheet of paper. It was a copy of the lab report from 5 years ago. The header, the lab name, the conclusion. Not genetically related. The rest was covered in red marker. 1 word circled twice, preliminary. 4 words under that in a different hand. Different ink. Different weight. Do not use for legal decisions. The paper shook in my hands because I was breathing too hard. I folded it, closed my eyes for a second, then opened them again and forced them to see steady. The phone vibrated in the box. I had not turned it on. A new message flashed on the screen. Unknown number, do not sign anything. Guardianship renewal hearing moved up. Tomorrow 8 a.m. they will try to use your thumbprint while you sleep. My heart beat a dull, heavy drum in my chest. There was no name on the message. No hint of who was watching from the shadows. In the asylum I had learned to tell real warnings from the whispers my brain sometimes made when the nights were too long. This was real. It had time, motive, method. It used the word moved up. That meant someone had expecting a different date. Someone who checked calendars. I typed a reply. Who is this? The dots pulsed. Stopped. Started again. A new message arrived. A friend who owes you for a sandwich and a safe night. Basement door. Now. A floorboard creaked above me. Voices drifted closer to the back stairs. I slid the phone in my pocket, replaced the panel, and pushed the water heater back an inch to hide any scuff. Then I killed the basement light and moved to the servants' entrance. The back door opened into the narrow strip of garden where the gardeners stacked clay pots and bags of soil. The night air was cold and clean. Across the alley a car idled with its lights off. My eyes adjusted. The driver wore a cap pulled low. He lifted a hand. The gesture was small but deliberate. Not a wave. A signal. I stepped into the shadows. Footsteps crossed the kitchen above. Ashley's laugh floated through a window and fell flat on the brick. I opened the gate and walked to the car. The driver leaned across and pushed open the passenger door. I slid in and shut it soft. The interior smelled like coffee and mint. Seat belt, the driver said. I clicked it in without argument. He pulled away from the curb and turned the first corner like he had planned the route 100 times. I studied his profile. The cap shadowed his eyes but not the line of his jaw. The guard from the hospital. The night shift who had given me water and a sandwich when the Millers forgot their own plan and left me on the curb. His name tag had said Lewis. Mr. Lewis, I said. Just Lewis, he said. He glanced at me. You look worse in a suit than you did in that hoodie. I am wearing Brandon's shirt, I said. Lewis made a sound that could have been a laugh if it had wanted to be. Figures. How did you get my number? I asked. And why do you have a phone that was hidden in my basement? I will answer the second question first, he said. You are not the only person in that house who knows how to hide something. And you are not the only person who has been hiding from someone in that house. I went still. Who? Lewis took a slow turn and then speeded up as we hit the main road. You had a visitor every month for 3 years. Sometimes she brought books. Sometimes she brought cash that she told me to use to make sure you got extra blankets. She never let me put her name on the log. But I am not stupid. She was careful, not cruel. I pictured a shadow behind glass. A patient waiting room with a plant in a plastic pot. The grain of a table. My memory had holes. The nights had eaten some of them. But a scent lingered. Soap and cold air and something like lilies cut with iron. Mom, I said. It was not a question. Lewis did not look at me. If you want that to be true, that is your business. I know what I know. She used that phone once to record something. She left it for you when she thought it was safe. It was not safe. I took it. I waited. Waited for what? For you to leave that place and not walk right back in, he said. For you to breathe without asking permission. A bitter smile tugged at my mouth. I am still working on that. You will get there, he said. But not if you sign what they are going to bring you tonight. Tonight, I said. Dad said tomorrow we will handle my ID. Sure, Lewis said. And tonight someone will knock on your bedroom door with a stack of papers and say it is a formality so you can sleep here while the ID processes. They will be all smiles. They will talk about trust. They will ask you to press your thumb on the sensor to save time in the morning. Then tomorrow you will wake up and you will not be the person who decides where you can go or who you can call. I stared out the windshield. The city slid by, a smear of light and glass. You are very sure. I used to be a court officer before the night shift, he said. Some people do not love open courtrooms. They do their business in kitchens. We drove in silence for a block. I pressed my palm to my thigh to ground myself. I had done a lot of grounding in the past 5 years. Breath in, count 4. Hold, count 4. Out, count 8. The numbers gave me something to hold when the rest of the room slid. What is on the phone? I asked. Playlists, Lewis said. And one recording. I did not listen. You expect me to believe that? I expect you to decide what you are willing to believe, he said. He pulled into a service lot behind a convenience store and parked beside a dark delivery truck. We have 10 minutes. In 11 a patrol comes through. You can get out before they see you or you can explain why you are in a car with a stranger at midnight. Up to you. He handed me the phone. It was already unlocked. My thumb hesitated over the screen. Then I tapped the voice recorder icon. One file. The timestamp was 4 years and 8 months ago. The title was a single letter. E. I hit play. Static. A scrape like someone had set the phone on a table. Then a voice. Female. Low, steady, like a person who had read a lot of bad news out loud and trained her tone not to waver. Not my mother. That realization hit me first. Then the name did. Emily, I said. Lewis looked out the windshield like he had seen a ghost on the hood. Your fiancé. On the recording, Emily exhaled close to the mic. It is done, she said. The preliminary report is in. We can move him without court delays. But the lab director warned me not to use this for legal decisions. He wants the final panel. I told him to send it to the house so Mrs. Miller could file it. She will sit on it. She always sits on things that make her look bad. A pause. A clink of glass. Another voice, male, came in like a cut. Brandon. Do not talk about her like that, Brandon said, mild as milk. She is protecting her family. Protecting you, Emily said. Do not get sentimental. You wanted the position. Now you have it. Smile and look grateful. You will not talk to me that way after next summer, Brandon said. After we announce, you will not talk to me that way at all. Announce what? Emily said. Brandon laughed. You are a smart girl. Figure it out. Chairs scraped. Someone walked away. Emily spoke again, close to the mic, like she had leaned toward the phone without meaning to. Ryan, she said softly. My name in her mouth felt like a hand pressing on an old bruise. If you ever hear this, I told myself I did this because you needed to learn how to become a person. That is what love is, right? Teaching. But that is not what this is. This is me stepping aside for the boy who knows how to make other people feel small without raising his voice. He makes me feel safe. That is my sin. I hope you forgive me and I hope you do not. Both will punish me in a way I deserve. The recording clicked and ended. My breath came in even counts because I made it. 4. Hold. 4. Out. 8. The car was very quiet. The kind of quiet where you can hear the way the city hums under the noise it makes for show. Lewis shifted. So now you know. I know more than I did, I said. My voice sounded like it belonged to a person who had a plan. I did not. I had a thread in a pocket with 2 small things in it. A bracelet and a note. Back door, he said. I looked at him. Why are you helping me? Because once I asked for help on a night worse than this and someone gave me a sandwich and a place on a couch, he said. And because I do not like bullies. Even the ones with good suits. Do you think I bullied him? I said softly. Lewis stared at the windshield like the answer was printed on the glass. I think a boy jumped and left a note. I think the boys who were supposed to be men read it and chose the easier story. I think a lot of people choose easy stories because they fit in frames. Frames look good on mantles, I said. Yeah, he said. They do. He put the car in gear and pulled out. We are going back. You are not ready to be out. Not tonight. Not with no papers and a house full of people who know how to call the police and make their voice sound like a public service announcement. You are going to drop me at the gate, I said. No, Lewis said. I am going to drop you at the corner. You are going to walk in like you stepped outside to breathe. You are going to go upstairs, lock your door, and you are not going to open it for anyone. In the morning you are going to wake up before they do and you are going to leave with your box. You are going to go to the registrar and get a certified copy of your student record. You are going to go to the pediatrician's office listed in that binder and ask for your childhood immunization card. They will find the file if you are polite enough to make them want to help you. You are going to go to the lab with that star next to its number and you are going to ask one question. What question? Where is the final panel? The car turned onto my street. The house rose ahead like a ship, every window bright. Dinner had moved to the living room. Music. Laughter. Normalcy, rusty with effort. Lewis parked half a block away and turned off the engine. I do not have money, I said. Not enough to pay you. I did not ask, he said. I put my hand on the door handle, paused. If they try to renew the guardianship and I refuse to sign, can they do it anyway? They can try, he said. They can say a lot of words in front of a judge who likes their tie. But a refusal is a refusal. It puts a mark on the record. Marks matter. Judges like clean pages. Keep yours clean and loud. I stepped out of the car. The night was cooler now. The air smelled like rain that might or might not fall. I closed the door and leaned down to the open window. Thank you, I said. Lewis nodded like thank you was a thing that slid off him without sticking. Back door, he said again, and drove away. I walked to the house. My hands were steady. My heart was not. Inside, the living room was a mess of wrapping paper and bright ribbons. Ashley perched on the arm of Brandon's chair, taking selfies with her lips pushed forward. Mom was stacking plates. Dad was laughing at something a client had texted. He saw me and his smile flattened. Where did you go? He asked. For air, I said. There is air in here, Ashley said. Not the kind I needed, I said. Brandon stood and walked toward me like a concerned friend. We worried you would run away, he said lightly. I came back, I said. He studied my face, his eyes warm and thoughtful. If you did not know that warmth could be a knife you would lean into it. Good, he said. Let me know if you need anything. I will, I said. I went up the back stairs. In my room I shoved the basement box under the bed, took off Brandon's shirt, and put on a plain tee. I sat with my back to the door, knees up, feet planted, hands loose. I breathed. 4. Hold. 4. Out. 8. At 1 a.m., a soft knock. I did not move. Ryan, Mom whispered. Sweetie, open up. I know you are awake. I closed my eyes. The phone in my pocket was a stone. Tomorrow is going to be busy, she said. We should sign a few things now so you can sleep in. No pressure. Just small things. House rules, you know how your father is. I pictured the binder on the pantry shelf. The blue cover. The star. I pictured the word preliminary circled in red. I pictured Emily's voice curling through a cheap microphone. She will sit on it. I slid my feet under me and stood. I did not open the door. I leaned my mouth to the seam and kept my voice gentle. I am tired, Mrs. Miller, I said. We can do paperwork tomorrow. There was a silence that grew teeth. Then she laughed softly. The sound had soothed me once. Tonight it made the hairs on my arms rise. Of course, she said. Sleep, then. Her footsteps receded down the hall. A second set of steps lingered. Ashley's voice floated like smoke through the wood. Scared, she whispered, a smile in it. You should be. Her steps faded too. I sat back down and waited for the sun. At dawn I dressed in those hand-me-down clothes Ashley had thrown. It felt right to wear them now. I put the bracelet in my pocket and the phone in my waistband. I opened the door quiet as I could and slipped into the hall. The house breathed the slow breath of rich people sleeping. I went down the back stairs, out through the kitchen, past the pantry where the binder waited for a hand braver than mine to carry it away, and into the yard. The gate clicked. The street opened. The city was a gray ribbon. I walked to the corner with my shoulders relaxed and my gaze steady. I felt lighter than I should have. Not because anything was solved. Because I had something to do that was mine. The registrar opened at 8. I waited on a bench across the street and watched the lights come on one by one. At 7:59 I crossed, pulled the door, and stepped inside. The woman at the counter looked like she had held a lot of students' hands through forms and a lot of professors' hands through budgets. She asked how she could help without looking bored. I need a certified copy of my record, I said. And if possible, the note that authorized my withdrawal 5 years ago. Her eyebrows lifted a hair. Name. Ryan Miller. She typed. Her expression shifted a tiny degree. I need an ID. I held up my empty hands. That is part of the problem. Could you accept a copy of a hospital record with my name on it while I wait for the new card? I know it is irregular. I can wait. I have time. She studied me. Then she stood. Let me see what I can do. 20 minutes later she returned with a printed envelope. This is not standard, she said. But after a medical withdrawal certain flags are different. You should take this to the Student Services office and ask for a re-entry packet. You might not want to re-enter, but the packet will get you an ID number that is valid for 15 days. Thank you, I said. And Mr. Miller, she added, lowering her voice. The note authorizing your withdrawal does not have your signature on it. Whose does it have? Your father's, she said. And your fiancé's as a witness. The floor felt very steady under my feet. May I have a copy? That, we do not do, she said. But I can read you the last line. Please. She looked down at the screen and read slowly. Patient is a danger to himself and to others. The family requests immediate inpatient treatment for his safety. I nodded. Thank you, I said again. The pediatrician's office was across town in a one-story building that looked like it had been cheerful longer than most practices could afford to be. The woman at the front desk had gray hair pulled into a bun and a sweater with kittens on it. She smiled at me like a cat might if a cat decided to be kind. Immunization card, I said. I was a patient here when I was small. Name. Ryan Miller. She asked for my date of birth, my mother's name, my father's. Her fingers tapped. Well, I will be, she said. Look at that. Paper file. We keep them in the back for the older ones. Wait here. She returned with a yellow card that had been filled out a decade at a time in tidy pen. Tetanus. MMR. Chickenpox. At the bottom, a note in the same neat hand that labeled spice jars. Emergency. A. The line that said blood type was underlined twice. Can I make a copy? I asked. She nodded and fed it into a machine. She handed the copy over with a smile that reached her eyes. Moms, she said. They always think of these things. I thanked her and stepped back outside. The sun had climbed. My phone buzzed. A new message from the unknown number. Court moved back to next week. They realized you did not sign. Good. Now buy a cheap lock for your door. And do not eat anything you did not open yourself. I texted back. Why are you doing this? Dots. Then, because 5 years is too long to teach anyone anything. I stared at that for a long moment. Then I typed, who told you about the binder? Reply, I grew up in a house like that. They always have a binder. Top right shelf. Blue. If not blue, red. If not red, they call it the book. A small laugh slid out of me before I could stop it. It felt wrong and right at the same time. Like remembering how to use a muscle. My last stop was the lab. The building was glass and steel and had a sign on the front that promised accuracy and compassion. The receptionist wore a white coat even though she did not need to. She asked if I had an appointment. I have a question, I said. I placed the copy of the immunization card on the counter with the blood type underlined. Then I slid the old report copy with the circle around preliminary beside it. 5 years ago you ran a test for my family. The preliminary report said one thing. I want to know where the final panel is. She looked at the papers. She looked at me. Her mouth tightened a fraction, then smoothed. Sir, we cannot disclose private results. I am the subject, I said. Ryan Miller. I can sign whatever form you need. She hesitated. The phone rang. She picked it up, said the lab's name, said yes 3 times, said the same words she had said to me about disclosure. When she hung up she looked tired. If the final panel exists, it is in the archive, she said. You would need the ordering physician's authorization or a court order to retrieve it. Who was the ordering physician? She typed. Dr. Emily Carver. I felt a world tilt, just a degree. Emily had been pre-med when we were together. She had become a doctor after I left. Dr. Emily Carver. A title that sounded like command. Is she still affiliated with you? I asked. She was a resident who rotated here through a partner program, the receptionist said. She is not employed here now. Do you have a record of the panel being sent? She typed again. Final panel completed and couriered to address on file. Signed for by A. Miller. A, my mother's initial. Or Ashley's. Another easy story. Thank you, I said. You have been helpful. I stepped out into the sun and stood on the sidewalk with the city breathing around me. I had a copy of a card, a copy of a report, 2 names, 1 recording, and a message from a person who knew things you only know if you have watched a house from the edge of it for a long time. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. 1 line. They know you went to the lab. Do not go home yet. Ashley is waiting with papers and a witness. Find a safe place. Find a safe person. Safe place. Safe person. The words tasted like a language I had not spoken in a while. I thumbed through my contacts. There were not many. The asylum taught you a new kind of loneliness. But not all of it was empty. I scrolled to a name I had not said out loud in 5 years. The only teacher who had called me after I disappeared from campus and left a message that said I will write again in case you did not get this. The man who had kept my final project code in his email because he thought I would ask for it back one day. Professor Hale. I pressed call. The ring sounded in my ear like a rope thrown across a gap. He picked up on the second ring. Ryan, he said, like he had been practicing saying my name in case he would need to. Professor, I said. I need help. He did not ask what kind. Come to my office, he said. Do not stop for anyone. I looked up at the sky, down at my shoes, across at the glass doors of the lab where answers sat in boxes with labels and numbers and policies that built cages out of kindness. I'm on my way, I said. As I started to walk, the phone buzzed one more time. A photo came through. Grainy. Night. A kitchen. A woman sitting at a table with her face in her hands. My mother. Her shoulders shaking. A man stood behind her. My father. His hand on her shoulder. His ring caught the light. Text under the photo, do not mistake tears for mercy. They both cut, but one makes you want to hold the blade. I put the phone in my pocket and moved. The world felt taller than it had that morning. But my feet knew how to go forward. Behind me, somewhere in a house that had once been mine, a binder waited on a shelf and a door waited for a knock and a pen waited for a thumbprint. Ahead of me, an office door waited to open. Between those 2 doors, a truth waited with its hands in its pockets, patient, sure. I decided I would make it wait 1 day less. Professor Hale opened his office door before I could knock. He was still the same, sleeves rolled, tie loosened, a coffee ring on the desk like a permanent eclipse. You look like a man who already knows what he needs, he said, stepping aside. I know what I will not let happen again, I said. He gestured to the chair. Start from the part that matters most. I laid it out fast and flat. The binder in the pantry. The blood types. The preliminary report with a warning not to use it for legal decisions. The lab courier record signed by A. Miller. The registrar note that recorded a withdrawal I did not sign. The recording of Emily and Brandon. The messages about guardianship and the midnight thumbprint. Lewis. The box behind the water heater. Hale did not interrupt. When I finished he steepled his fingers and looked at the wall for a long breath. 2 paths, he said. One is a kitchen confrontation. It feels good for 10 minutes and changes nothing. The other is paper, process, patience. It feels slow and dry and wins. I want to win, I said. Good, he said. Because I will not spend my afternoon on a kitchen fight. He pulled a drawer and lifted out a folder labeled Clinic Network. Old students, he said. Some of them owe me. More of them owe their better selves a favor. He dialed a number on speaker. Dr. Wynn, it is Hale. I need a quick consult on a former student who is staring down an involuntary guardianship based on a preliminary DNA report that never should have been used, a fraudulent withdrawal note, and a lab courier signature that smells like smoke. That is. Vivid, a calm voice said. Is the subject with you? Yes, I said. Then listen closely, Mr. Miller, Dr. Wynn said. You need 3 things in the next 48 hours. A temporary restraining order to block any guardianship action without your presence in counsel. A preservation letter to the lab demanding retention of all records, digital and paper, related to your test and delivery. And a sworn statement from the registrar that your withdrawal note was signed by someone other than you. I can do the registrar statement, Hale said. And I can help draft the preservation letter. I can file the TRO if he retains me, Wynne said. I am local to the county. It will not be cheap, but I will front the filing fees and we can settle it when he gets his identity back enough to open a bank account. I do not have enough to pay you yet, I said. But I will. You will sign a representation agreement and we will worry about money later, Wynne said, as if she had already decided for me. Do you have any proof that you are being coerced to sign documents in the house? I have texts warning they would try and I have my word, I said. Do you have the recording of the fiancé showing intent to use a preliminary report to move you without court delay, she asked. Yes. Good, she said. It is not a pretty route, but it is a route. Send me the audio and a short summary of events. Hale, email me the registrar contact. I will draft. Mr. Miller, do not go home. If they control your roof, they control your night. Hale hung up and leaned back. You can stay at my place tonight. I have a sofa that pretends to be a bed if you lie to it. Thank you, I said, feeling the tightness in my chest ease for the first time in a long time. We worked. Hale typed the preservation letter with that clipped precision of a man who knows that words can be wrenches. He printed it. I signed it in ink that sank into the paper like a promise. He scanned it and emailed it to Dr. Wynne and the lab address on the report. He called the registrar, explained in a voice as calm as a lake what we needed. 30 minutes later an assistant arrived with a notarized statement that said the withdrawal form on file was not signed by me, that the name was Ryan Miller but the hand was not, and that my father and a witness had acted in my stead under a clause for emergency medical withdrawal. The clause was annotated with a note that read, "Subject not present. Subject did not present identification." We sent that too. Dr. Wynne called back. TRO is filed, she said. Emergency hearing in 2 hours. Bring yourself and one person who can testify to your competence and the coercion you anticipate. Lewis, I said without thinking. And Mrs. Gomez, if she can come. Bring one, Wynne said. Too many voices make judges impatient. Pick the one least likely to be flustered. Lewis, I said. Send me his full name and a number, Wynne said. We will meet at the courthouse at 2:15. We left the campus like two men who had written their names on a door that used to be locked from the other side. I called Lewis. He answered on the first ring. Where? He said. Courthouse, I said. 2:15. Can you come? I am already nearby, he said. And I have something for you. A memory card. For what? For the kitchen, he said. The guard entrance camera feeds a backup. The house thinks it loops. It does not. It records when someone uses the back stair after midnight with a cart of papers. Lewis, I said, feeling that new muscle tighten and flex. You are a good man. Do not say that too loud, he said. I have a reputation to maintain. The courthouse was a glass box that pretended it was sunlight instead of fluorescent tubes. Dr. Wynne met us outside security. She was smaller than her voice and wore a dark suit that did not need you to like it to be right. Mr. Miller, she said, shaking my hand. Mr. Lewis. Thank you for coming. We sat on a wooden bench that had held too many nervous men and women and families pretending to be whole. Wynne briefed me in short sentences. Answer only what you are asked. Look at the judge, not the other attorney. Do not volunteer speeches. We are not clearing your name today. We are buying time and preventing a fraud tonight. Understood, I said. We entered a small hearing room with a tired flag and a seal on the wall that hoped to scare people straight. The judge was a woman with hair pulled into a quick knot and eyes that looked like they had seen every kind of human weather. On the other side of the aisle, a man I recognized from 2 holiday parties stood next to my father. The man was the family attorney. My father looked composed. He always did. But his knuckles were white where he gripped the back of a chair. That told me more than his face. The judge looked down at her screen, then up at us. Emergency motion for a temporary restraining order, she said. Petitioner Ryan Miller seeking to restrain respondents Arthur Miller and Elaine Miller from initiating or continuing any guardianship or conservatorship proceedings without the petitioner's presence and counsel. Grounds include alleged use of a preliminary DNA report, alleged coercion, and irregularities in prior medical withdrawal documentation. Counsel, appearances. Dr. My Wynne for the petitioner, Wynne said. David Keene for the respondents, the family attorney said. The judge looked at me. Mr. Miller, do you understand why we are here? Yes, Your Honor, I said. Wynne moved through it with the precision of a surgeon who does not waste motions. She presented the registrar's statement, the preservation letter, and the audio recording from Emily. She did not play the whole thing. She played enough. When Emily's voice said the words preliminary report and move him without court delays, the room went very still. Keene objected to everything he could think to object to. The judge overruled most of it with a crispness that made me think she liked clean facts more than messy reputation. Then Lewis testified. He spoke in the same steady tone he used when telling me to put on my seat belt. He recounted the warning about papers at night, the pattern of late deliveries to the back stair, and the way people who meant well used the word formality when they wanted you to stop thinking. Keene tried to rattle him. Mr. Lewis, are you a lawyer? No, Lewis said. Are you a doctor? No. Then your opinions on legal process and mental competence are irrelevant. My opinions are mine, Lewis said. My facts are facts. You asked if I am a lawyer. I am not. But I am a man who knows when someone is about to be cornered. Wynne sat him down and stood calm as a stone. Your Honor, we are not asking the court to decide paternity today. We are not asking the court to adjudicate 5 years of pain in 15 minutes. We are asking the court to do what courts do best in emergencies. Stop the train. Put the brakes on the thing that cannot be undone tomorrow if we guess wrong today. The judge tapped her pen once. Then she looked at my father. Mr. Miller, do you intend to present your son with documents tonight for signature that would affect his legal capacity? My father smiled without teeth. We intended to present a simple house rules acknowledgement so that he would feel welcome and safe. Do those house rules include consent to medical treatment, financial oversight, or limitations on his movement? The judge asked. My attorney drafted them, my father said. She looked at Keene. He adjusted his tie. There is a standard framework in place for adult children returning home after prolonged medical care, he said. Answer the question, the judge said. Yes, he said. There are provisions for temporary consent. The judge signed the order on her tablet and the printer on the desk coughed. She handed copies to both sides. Temporary restraining order granted, she said. No documents affecting legal capacity may be presented to or signed by Mr. Miller without his counsel present. No guardianship petitions may be filed for 7 days without leave of this court. We will reconvene in 72 hours for a status conference. Mr. Keene, if your clients are acting in good faith, they will welcome this cooling off period. Mr. Miller, if you are acting in good faith, you will keep your counsel informed of your whereabouts and you will not provoke unnecessary confrontations. Court is adjourned. We walked out into a hallway that smelled like old paper and newer hope. My father's hand brushed my sleeve as we passed. For the first time in 5 years I did not flinch. You made this ugly, he said softly. No, I said. I made it honest. Wynne guided me out to the steps. You have bought time, she said. Use it. If you have a safe address, send it to me. If you do not, use Professor Hale's sofa and buy a lock for your door there. I will move on the lab with a preservation order and a subpoena request. We will also file a motion for access to any final panels sent to your house. I will send the address, I said. And Mr. Miller, she added. Get some food that did not come from a party tray. Your hands are steady but your face is tired. Tired people sign things to make other people stop talking. I know, I said. I have done it. Hale drove us to a hardware store where I bought a door bar and a lock that did not look like much but would fuss loudly if someone tried to make it do what it did not want to. He took me to a diner where the menu had too many options and the waitress called everyone honey. I ate eggs and toast and drank coffee like a person learning to chew again. The world slowed. At dusk, a message buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number. A photo of the pantry shelf. The binder was gone. Text under it, they moved it. Check the study safe. Right side panel. Code is the house phone number. I stared at the screen until the number stopped swimming. I showed Hale. He made a face like a teacher making a decision between calling the principal and handling it himself. We do not break into houses, he said. We do not, I agreed. But we do look at safes when someone leaves the door open. The house would not leave a safe open. But it would open the door to a supposed family dinner to save face the day after a court loss. Pride makes people predictable. I texted Lewis. He answered with a simple okay and an address 1 street over with a good view through the neighbor's hedges. At 7 I walked up the Miller Drive. No papers in my pocket. No fear in my throat. The gate clicked. The foyer light washed me in a gold that never did more than make me look like a softer version of whatever I already was. Mom stood near the stairs. She wore blue again. It used to mean good days. Her eyes were red. It did not make me want to hold anything. We have soup, she said. I am not staying, I said. I came to pick up something with my name on it. Her mouth trembled. She stepped aside. In the study, the safe sat behind a panel that pretended to be decorative. I closed the door and locked it. The click felt indecent in that house, like saying what everyone already knew. I entered the house phone number and the panel popped. Inside, stacks of envelopes and a thin metal case. I took only what belonged to me. The envelope with my name. The metal case had a label in my mother's hand. Lab. Final. I lifted it. My fingers were steady. The weight was enough to make my pulse jump. The study door rattled. My father. Ryan, open this door. In a moment, I said. Now, he said. I am making a copy of what is mine, I said. The house records are private, he said. The lab records are not a house recipe, I said. They are my life. He banged the door once. I slid the case into my backpack, took a quick photo of the safe contents, and closed it. I wiped the handle with my sleeve because old habits die slow. Then I opened the door. My father stood framed in the hall light. Ashley behind him with a phone raised like a weapon that shoots narratives. Mom at the end of the hall with a hand over her mouth. You cannot take that, my father said. The court will tell me if I have to return it, I said. And the court has already told you not to present me with papers. We will fix this quietly, my father said. Return what you took. No, I said. We will fix it correctly. Ashley lifted the phone. He is stealing, she said. I am recording. Record this, I said, and looked into her lens. Arthur Miller and Elaine Miller used a preliminary report to commit me. A final panel exists. They hid it. They used a false witness to withdraw me from school. They tried to push a guardianship through a kitchen door. Record that. Her mouth opened and shut. She lowered the phone but did not stop the video. She never could resist a show. Brandon stepped from the living room like a prince called to clean up the mess others made. He smiled the gentle smile he wore when he wanted to look like forgiveness. Ryan, he said. You are making a scene. I am making a record, I said. Please stop, Mom whispered. Please. We can talk. I can talk, I said. You had 5 years to talk to me through a pane of glass. You chose to talk to someone else instead. She flinched. My father placed a hand on her arm. That ring flashed again. A small sun that burned whoever stood too close. I left them in the hall with their good lighting and better lies. On the front steps, Louis waited in the dark like a shadow taught how to drive. I climbed in and shut the door. Got it, he said. Got it, I said. We drove to Dr. Nguyen's office. She met us in the lobby, hair still perfect, eyes more alert than before. You should not have done that, she said, then took the case from my hands like it was a newborn. But since you did, let us make it legal. We opened the case together under a camera. Inside were 2 sealed envelopes with the lab seal. One had my name. One had a code that matched the number on the preliminary. She logged them, photographed every surface, and placed them in a new box with a chain of custody form that I signed and she signed and Louis witnessed. She broke the seal in front of the camera and slid out the final report. Numbers. Loci. A conclusion printed without drama. Subject Ryan Miller is the biological child of Arthur Miller and Elaine Miller with a probability of 99.999%. Subject Brandon Hart is not the biological child of Arthur Miller and Elaine Miller. The report did not try to explain the rest of our lives. It did not apologize. It did not hold my hand. It told one truth with the bluntness I had craved for 5 years. Wynn set it down and let the silence do the work. Next steps, she said. We file this under seal with the court in the morning with a motion to vacate any prior medical orders and a petition for sanctions for misuse of a preliminary report. We request an injunction preventing any further representation of Mr. Hart as a biological child for legal or financial purposes until an independent test confirms or denies this result. And we prepare for war. Quiet war, but war. I nodded. Thank you. Do not thank me yet, she said. You will go home to Hale's place, lock the door, sleep. In the morning you will get a new ID number with that temporary campus packet, then a new bank account, then a new phone plan that is not on your family plan. You will not eat anything that you did not open. You will dismiss every impulse to walk alone at night for 3 days. I can do that, I said. And Mr. Lewis, she added. Keep your friend alive. I am a night shift, Lewis said. We keep a lot of things alive that are not supposed to be. At Hale's place I installed the lock and lay down on the sofa that pretended to be a bed. It did an adequate impression. I slept without dreams. Morning came like a calendar page and not like a trial. The day after that, everything moved as if gravity had been holding it. The court took the final report under seal and set a hearing. The registrar replaced the medical withdrawal with a voluntary leave pending my signature. The bank opened an account with my re-entry ID. The lab confirmed receipt of the preservation letter and froze the records. The dean emailed to say he was glad to hear from me and hoped I would consider finishing my degree. He did not ask why I had disappeared. He knew enough to let the future answer the past. Then the House tried to speak again. A formal invitation arrived at Hale's office in a cream envelope. My mother wrote it by hand. Dinner, 7, family only. The word family sat there like a test I had taken before and failed. I sent a reply through Wynn. It contained the court date and nothing more. That night, news moved the way it does when people with money want it to stop and it refuses. A blog picked up a rumor. A forum posted a photo of a pantry shelf and asked why the binder was gone. Someone leaked the audio of Emily and Brandon. It was clipped and messy, but the words preliminary report were clear. Comments poured in. Some defended. Some demanded. Some just liked the smell of smoke. Emily called me from a number I did not recognize. I answered because I wanted to hear if her voice would still scratch the same place inside me. It was not supposed to be this way, she said. It never is, I said. I was young, she said. He promised a life that made sense. You are a doctor, I said. You know what consent means. You took mine. I am sorry, she said. No, I said. You are guilty. Sorry is what you say when you step on someone's foot. Guilty is what you are when you push. She cried. I listened to it like I was listening to rain hit a window I did not intend to open. When she ran out of tears she hung up. I did not save the number. Brandon texted me at midnight. A single line. You always thought you were better than me. I typed and erased 3 replies. Then I sent one. I think I'm older than you now. That is different. He did not reply. On the morning of the hearing, the courthouse hall was fuller. Reporters. A few neighbors who liked the flavor of other people's trouble. The judge kept the room neat with a word. Dr. Wynn walked me through the door like a general guiding a soldier to his mark. Keene looked more tired. My father looked more brittle. My mother looked like the kind of woman who had been told for 20 years that poise was a shield and was discovering that some storms go through steel. Wynn presented the final report. She did not raise her voice. She let the numbers be louder than any speech. She asked the court to admonish the misuse of a preliminary test and to vacate any orders derived from it. She asked for a recommendation for independent counseling for the family at their expense and for an order precluding further attempts to alter my legal status without full hearings. Keene tried to make noise. The judge let him speak for 2 minutes and then held up a hand. This court will not indulge pretty fictions and kitchen shortcuts, she said. Preliminary means preliminary. Family means a duty of care, not convenience. The emergency order is extended. All prior medical directives concerning Mr. Miller are vacated. The final panel remains under seal, but its implications are obvious and grave. If the parties wish to contest it, they may file for an independent test. Until then, Mr. Miller is his own man. Her gavel fell like a small door closing softly. The sound was enough. We stepped into the hall. Cameras flashed. Questions rose and fell. Wynn held up a hand and issued a single-sentence press statement that said nothing and everything. My father approached. He looked at me long enough for me to see the boy he had been under the man he had learned to be. "You will destroy us," he said. "No," I said. "You did that. I am building me." My mother reached for my arm and stopped short. "Ryan," she whispered. "Please." I held her gaze without flinching. "You visited me," I said. "Monthly. You brought books. You told a guard to get me blankets. You did not put your name on the line. You hid a final report. You drew a star next to a lab number and sat on it because it made your life harder. That is what you did. We can tell the truth about your kindness and your cowardice at the same time. I will not call them mercy. One day, maybe, I will call you mother again. Not today." She lowered her hand. Tears slid down. The world did not stop to hand her a tissue. Ashley stood behind her, pale, mouth thin. She opened it, then closed it, then looked away. Even she knew there were some lines a performance could not sell. Outside, the sky was a clean blue that did not care who we were. People walked to buses and answered phones and bought coffee and forgot to add sugar. Life did what it always does when rich people think the day is about them. It went on. Lewis met me on the steps. He handed me a key on a ring. "Spare for a small studio above a repair shop," he said. "Cheap. Clean. The owner does not ask questions he does not want to write down. First month is on me. Do not argue." "I was going to," I said. "Do not," he said. Hale came down beside me and put a hand on my shoulder. "I have a TA slot if you want to ease back into school," he said. "Grading code pays less than vengeance, but it keeps the lights on." "I will take it," I said. Wynn checked her watch. "I will see you in a week," she said. "By then the lab will have responded to the subpoena with their delivery logs and the audio chain will be settled. Keep breathing. Do not do anything dramatic unless I tell you it will play." "I have had my fill of drama," I said. "That is what all my clients say before they do something memorable," she said, and smiled, small and real. "Try to be boring for a few days, Mr. Miller." I walked to the curb with Lewis. We stood there a minute and watched traffic pretend it was chaos when it was really choreography. "What now?" Lewis asked. "Now I buy a cheap bed and a kettle," I said. "Now I learn what my code looks like after 5 years. Now I stop waiting for someone to knock and tell me whether I can leave." He nodded once. "Good plan." We drove to the studio. It smelled like new paint and old wood. Sun came through a window and made a square on the floor that invited feet. I stood in it and felt heat seep into my skin, slow and simple. My phone buzzed one more time. Unknown number. A last line. "Favors settled. Sandwich paid. If you ever need a night guard again, you know where to find me." I typed back. "Drinks on me when this is over." Reply: "I do not drink. But I will have coffee. Black." I laughed. A clean sound. My own. The days that followed did not look like a movie. They looked like receipts and emails and nights where I practiced sleeping without counting. The court scheduled the independent test. Brandon refused to appear and then appeared with a smile, and the numbers said again what they had said the first time, that he was not what the house had told him he was. He shouted in the hallway that I had stolen his life. I told him to build his own. He did not like that answer. People rarely like answers that tell them to get a hammer. Emily resigned from her residency. A notice went up about a review board. She sent one last message that said, "I hope you become the person you wanted me to believe in." I did not reply. That was not my work anymore. My father stopped trying to look kind and started trying to look innocent. The court did not let him do either. My mother started walking in the mornings. She sent me a photo once, of a lake I remembered from a childhood picnic. No caption. I sent back a check for the cost of the books she had bought me. No note. We were learning a new language. It did not have compliments in it yet, but it did not have lies either. Ashley posted a long apology on a platform that loves long apologies. She did not send it to me. That was for her followers. She sent me a different message that said I was a bad sister. I wrote back, "You were a little sister. Be a better adult." She hearted it. That was also a language. Hale gave me work. I graded code. I taught an evening lab full of 19-year-olds who believed bugs were personal insults. I wrote my own code at night, testing ideas that had survived the asylum nights as sketches on stolen paper towels. The logic felt like a road my feet remembered even when my eyes did not. Lewis moved to days. He said his doctor told him nights were not meant to be a lifestyle. He bought a plant for my window and then came by every week to be sure I had not killed it. He never stayed long. He never needed to. On the 91st day after the court told the house to stop pretending kitchen rules were law, I stood outside the big building with the glass that hid the fluorescent tubes and signed a paper that said I was me and would remain so. Wynn watched me sign and nodded like a teacher who had witnessed a student solve a proof without dropping a line. "How does it feel?" she asked. "It feels like standing in a room that finally has the right number of doors," I said. "And windows," she added. "And windows," I agreed. We walked down the steps and the sky was the same blue it had been the day the judge told the truth out loud in a room with flags. The difference was not the sky. The difference was mine. That night I went back to the studio and boiled water and poured it over tea leaves like a man performing a ceremony only he needed to understand. I sat on the floor in the square of sun that had turned into a square of moon. The plant Lewis bought looked like it had decided to live. My phone buzzed with nothing urgent. My door was locked with a cheap lock that made exactly the noise it promised if you asked it to perform beyond its job description. The house that forgot me was a place on a map, not a room in my head. I took the plastic bracelet out of my pocket and set it on the table. The letters were faded but legible. Name, Ryan Miller. Blood type, A. I pressed it flat and placed the copy of the final report beside it. Numbers. A probability that did not need love to be true. Once, I thought home was a set of rooms and a chandelier and a woman laughing in a kitchen that smelled like sugar and lemon oil. Then I thought home was something that gets taken and you get used to the empty. Now I know this. Home is what you build when no one is watching, and what you refuse to hand back to anyone who asks for it without earning it. Outside, a siren went by. Somewhere, a party laughed. Somewhere else, someone cried into a towel while a television mumbled in the next room. The world kept doing what it always does. I sipped my tea. I breathed. I started a list of groceries on a note pinned to the fridge with a magnet that looked like a tomato. Tomorrow I would go to class and help a freshman debug a loop he swore was cursed. I would meet with Wynn about a civil suit that would take months and teach me new words for old hurts. I would send Lewis a photo of the plant to prove it was still green. I would open my laptop and write code that might or might not turn into work that mattered. And if a knock came, I would look through the peephole first. Then I would decide whether to open the door. That was the lesson. Not the one they wanted to teach me. The one I learned anyway.